Welcome back. Now, if you spend a £5 a day on a takeaway coffee to quench your caffeine addiction, then we're about to save you a few quid because 3FE are holding courses to teach you how to brew the perfect cuppa from the comfort of your own home. And there's an art to making the perfect cup, as I found out.
The coffee culture in Ireland has grown drastically over the last few years. Initially you had your pop-up of the big chain stores with coffee, but now we're beginning to see lots of specialty and independent coffee shops opening up all over Ireland.
Can you fill us in on the types of coffee available on the market today?
Obviously, when we go to a coffee shop, the main kind of drinks we'd be making would be espresso-based drinks. So they'd be made on the commercial espresso machine. But for people at home, there's lots of other options. You can have things like a French press, pour-over coffee, AeroPress coffee. There's tons of different varieties.
And what about the coffee bean? What's the most popular coffee bean?
It's really a big mix, depending on like the region, the soil quality, the roast, everything. There's so many different factors that go into the flavour profile of the coffee. So people who are into really strong, juicy flavours in coffee tend to favour African coffees, whereas people who like more kind of balanced, well-rounded coffees generally go towards kind of Central and South America. Or if somebody wants just something that's just, you know, really, really smooth, they tend to go for a blend.
Ethne, you run some great classes. Tell us about the classes that you have here.
We run two main classes. So we have a barista workshop, which is very in-depth, and it focuses more on people who are looking to get a real good start in the coffee industry, or else people who are just kind of curious as to what's going on behind the espresso machine. So the other class we run is a brew class, and it basically focuses on the home brewer and how they make a perfect cup of coffee at home.
Well, on that note, I'm excited to learn, so let's go.
So we have a few different brewing methods here in front of us, and they're ones that are easy to do at home. We have the French press that obviously everyone is familiar with, and then we have a more kind of technical one that we do in the class called the V60. Something that's really, really important in making the perfect cup of coffee is following a strict recipe. It's often something that people don't do, but the best way to think about it is if you were trying to bake a cake at home, you wouldn't just put random quantities of ingredients in, you'd have exact measurements, and that's what we do with our coffee as well. So we always have a weighing scales, and we always weigh out our coffee and our water.
That is such a good point, because I've just been guesstimating for years. That's what I've been doing wrong. Well, listen, we've enlisted the help of some of your local clients that have dropped in for a coffee and are now helping us out, and we'll get started. So what kind of coffee are we going to do first?
So we're going to start with the V60. It's a really popular method for making coffee, and it's a pour-over method. So basically our water is poured from above, it runs through a bed of coffee, and it filters through the bottom. The really cool thing about the V60 is it passes through a paper filter. So this catches all the oils and sediments of the coffee, and what we're left with is a really, really clean, clarified cup of coffee with really good flavours. What's really important is always to preheat all of our brewing equipment. So that's just basically pouring a bit of water in. So we've weighed out our coffee. What's really, really important is to use freshly ground coffee. We don't want coffee that was ground a couple of weeks ago, because as soon as it's ground and exposed to oxygen, it's going to start going stale. So we're just going to pop that in, and we want to make sure that it's a really flat surface that we're pouring into, so that the water passes through all of the coffee at the same time. And we're basically just going to keep adding in 50 grams of water kind of every 30 seconds until we reach our maximum, which is 250 grams. So as we can see now, our coffee is finished dripping. So all we need to do is just take this off the top. We can just throw these into the bin and just give our dripper just a little wash under the sink. Lovely. And then we're ready to serve it. Generally the flavours in this are really, really intense, and we'll get a really good taste of our coffee. But of course, if somebody wants to add milk and sugar into afterwards, it's absolutely fine.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. So the other method of brewing we're going to do today is the French press. So the first thing we're going to do, which is important, is we're going to preheat our French press. So after our French press is heated up, we're going to put our freshly ground coffee in. So now we're going to pour in our water. And we want to pour relatively quickly, because we want to get all the coffee as wet as quickly as possible. So after we wait for about 4 minutes, we're going to give the top bit a little bit of a mix, and you can see all the grounds have risen to the top. And then what we're going to do is just scrape out any of those leftover bits, and it's just going to help our coffee taste really, really good. So after another maybe 4 or 5 minutes, we're going to press down our plunger. Now, the important thing about this is that we want to do it really slow.
Oops. Why is that?
If we agitate that bed of coffee, we're going to end up with all those grounds jumping up to the top, and we're going to get a really kind of oily, sedimenty cup, which we don't want. So we're going to do a really slow push down. We're going to pour the coffee really slowly into another serving jug that we've preheated, so that all the coffee will be brewed for the correct amount of time and not end up getting bitter.
All that's left to do now is enjoy.